Hey guys, Datix here. The Outer Worlds 2 is a deep game with a ton of systems that take us back to the old school New Vegas mentality of zero hand-holding. Once you lock in a choice, it's locked in. So after spending over 100 hours in the game, let me tell you, I made a lot of mistakes. So this video will hopefully help you learn from them while giving you the tips you need to have a more enjoyable experience without spoiling things. So thanks to Xbox, and let's get started. As soon as you get the Z-Ray, you can revisit areas where you found panels with red lights. Looking through walls, you can follow wires to switches in order to activate and open doors. While we're talking about following, sometimes following wires will lead you to alternate entrances into places for your sneaky build to exploit. There are a lot of traps and minefields in the Outer Worlds too, but you don't need to invest into explosives to disable them and get through. Simply modify your weapon with explosive rounds and shoot the ground. This is the quickest and easiest way of clearing them. The game is filled with a lot of choice, but that also means you won't get to see or get to pick every outcome in every run with every build. Thankfully, in conversations, you can see what you're missing in order to engage a different avenue of conversation. If I had more observation here, for example, I might have been able to notice something in her mannerisms that suggests she's not being honest. Why is this good? Well, if you're the kind of person who wants to get the quote-unquote best outcome, you might notice that a particular conversation can be taken further with an option that's all question marks. This usually means there's a key piece of evidence you haven't found, usually in terminals or laying about as notes in the world. Sometimes these too are locked behind skill checks. For example, you might need a high hacking skill to get key pieces of evidence. So if you can't find them naturally after coming back, proceed without worrying too much. Don't make the mistake of obsessively searching, at least in your first playthrough, as some things will be locked based on your build. But take note for your next playthrough that there is more than meets the eye. Hopefully you build your character with the subscribe perk. It only takes a second and makes you a ton stronger. Plus, you'll make me happy and I might put out more content directly because of it. You don't need any speech checks for this interaction, friend. There is a bloody mess perk in the game, but it requires a huge skill investment of 20 in guns or melee, and therefore might not be available to you until the end game. Bypass the weight with explosives. They will almost always blow your enemies to bits, and if you like an explosive finish, investing in this skill is not just flashy, it's extremely powerful, as you can also mod your weapons to get the explosives damage boost as well. Thankfully, your explosions don't hurt your companions, but it will hurt you, so be careful. At least until you get 20 in explosives, that gives you a perk that makes you immune. After that, go crazy. As you play the game, you'll be offered floors based on how you're playing. One such floor is consumerism. You'll get this floor at the start of the game for purchasing the premium edition. It's a fun little Easter egg from the devs. For 149.95 AUD, you get a DLC pass for 2 future store expansions. You also get the Moonman's Corporate Appreciation Premium Prize Pack and access to the digital art book and original soundtrack. Else, the regular edition will have you playing the game this Thursday for 109.95 AUD. So if this game at all interests you, check it out. And thanks to Xbox for sponsoring this video. Let's get right back into floors. There's not a big upside or downside for this one, but it, like many floors, has an upside that isn't immediately apparent. If you choose the negative trait dumb when building your character, you'll be offered dumb choices in conversations. With consumerism, you'll be offered the same choices, so if you wanted to roleplay a dumb consumer, it's definitely the way to go. Though you won't get the benefits of slamming a can of sausage into a fuse box and other dumb related in-world actions with this floor. So it's not a replacement for dumb, but it also avoids the downsides of locking 5 skills. Don't make the mistake of never picking floors, because seeing how they interact with the world is part of the fun. When exploring the world, you may come across pitchball cards laying about, though they're not always so obvious. They're sometimes in containers, on bodies, or hidden in things or on things you won't notice until you look for the outline. Yes, they're extremely easy to miss. They provide a very small permanent bonus when collected, but the main draw to collecting these is a bit later on. You'll need quite a few in order to get access to some great items, so be sure to have a proper look and don't be like me running straight for whatever trash is most obvious. The game is designed with the assumption that you'll be crafting consumables and modding your weapons and gear. It's not necessary to spend all your time at a workbench, but when you do find one or talk to Niles to use his portable one, you absolutely should, at the very least, break down all the junk that you have. You won't be low on credits, not for long at least, but the value you get from crafting materials is extremely high all the way through the game. For example, ammo is very expensive and very limited. It's much easier and cheaper to craft the ammo you need. Also, grenades are very overtuned in this game to compensate for their limited nature, especially if you invest in explosives. Making them is relatively cheap, especially if you have the innovative perk. You can also craft mods, but to do so, you need to unlock the recipe. You can find them at mod vendors, or as rewards, or around in the world. The first time you pick up a mod, you can craft it from that point on. Placing, say, a plasma barrel and explosive magazine on a weapon turns it into an absolute AoE beast that burns its targets. Engineering gives you a perk that gives you bonus damage if you use modded weapons, but even without it, you'd be making a mistake not fine-tuning your gear and loadouts. You can fine-tune your companions as well. Every 5 levels you gain, they get a perk to be invested in their perk tree. You can play around with them to suit your build. Also, if you undertake their companion missions, after each one you'll get a mod pack that will let you modify their weapon and armor to further suit your playstyle. If you like dealing shock damage, for example, you should let them deal shock as well so the stacks build up faster on enemies. Be sure to do their companion missions ASAP because, of course, it will shape them as a character as well. Though I know all of you that have played Mass Effect 2 will do this regardless. Do note though that some characters' loyalty missions will have better outcomes if you wait a little longer before completion because there might be some evidence or research you need to do so. So at a workbench you can always change around your companions' mods. These aren't committed and locked in, but once you have chosen their perks, these can't be changed. So make sure you know what you need from them before you do so. For example, a tanky character doesn't need his companions to taunt. With the right skills, you'll be able to interact with the world in different ways. For example, with engineering, you can unjam doors, but there are also situations where you get an arguably better outcome for having the right skill. Here we see that we can lower the harvester with the drive overloader, something we find in the world on any build. Using that will complete the mission. However, if we have 4 in engineering or the brilliant trait, we can lower it without overloading, giving us better rewards. There are moments in the game that skill check you like this for even greater story outcomes, but these usually never use skills like guns, melee, or sneak to make these checks. Don't make the mistake of focusing entirely on combat, as you'll miss a lot of opportunities in the world. Though that could be your ideal first playthrough, seeing what you can do for your second run, in which case, proceed. But if you only plan on playing through once, consider a world skill like engineering, hacking, or science, but keep in mind that some choices during the story or side missions will result in different rewards that may or may not be good for your build. Either accept your outcome or keep lots of saves handy. You have 100 saves to play with, and the game also has 3 autosave slots. Do also keep in mind that backgrounds and traits pay off in the world as well, even negative ones like sickly. NPCs in the Outer Worlds 2 are very light on crime, or maybe they just aren't as aware. Without any investment in sneak, you can very easily take items right next to NPCs without being discovered unless they're looking directly at them. Simply crouch, and if it doesn't say detected on your screen, you are fine. In fact, you should take all you can. There really isn't a downside. In fact, even blowing open a door right next to them doesn't seem to annoy anyone. This seems to be by design. The devs know you're here to collect, so they lock the important stuff by putting NPCs right next to it, or hiding it elsewhere, or hiding it in their pockets. You need the right perk to pickpocket NPCs, so you can't do it without investment. Don't make the mistake of being too much of a goody two-shoes, not stealing anything. They're making it easy to reward us being compulsive looters because they know we like doing it. Also, here's the kicker, this probably deserves its own little section, but you'll never get over encumbered in this game, so loot away. You can't see everything that will bring your build together at the character creator. A little into the game, you'll start to see gear that scales with your skill levels. You might be thinking that speech is only good for conversations with NPCs. Well, besides the bonus damage to humans it gives, you also have items like this, or even leadership items like this, which lets you mark your targets for companions to lay on the pain, and the effect scales with your leadership skill. Naturally, this goes perfect with a leadership companion focused build. Same with this fairly common mod that marks targets for your companions as well. You can even find healing primers that scale with your science skill. So gear scales with your skills, but usually only skills that aren't damage focused, because damage focused scaling is just increasing the DPS of an item. Scaling with non-combat skills gives those builds a chance in combat. Medical, for example, I regret not picking first as it has a lot of interactions with the world and some of the most interesting builds in the game, like ones that give you huge damage if you're crashing from inhaling too many drugs. The most fun I had was with explosives and the bomb suit helmet. It makes it so my explosions give me temporary health, making me functionally immortal as I spam my explosive round weapons. Speaking of healing, in combat, if you press your heal button, you'll use your medical inhaler, which gives effects based on the primers inside it. However, outside of combat, if you press the same button, you'll do something different. You'll automatically consume the food and drink you have on your person to get up to full health, all without having to enter the menu. A very quick and easy way to top up that isn't immediately apparent, and I wish it existed in every single Fallout game. If you're committed to a Psychopath run where you try to kill every NPC, your first instinct would be to simply kill everyone immediately. I'd recommend holding a bit and waiting for the perfect opportunity, a meticulous serial killer rather than some kind of frothing-mouthed lunatic. For example, you can throw one of your companions under the bus by giving it over to the enemy in order to pass a breach. You can always return and slaughter everyone after. Being creative with your slaughter can be very fun. Peace is not always possible without the right skills anyway, so enjoy yourself. As you play the game, explore and complete bonus content, you can be rewarded with additional perks, permanent upgrades to your character. Simply finding Scrabbles, for example, gives you a perk of the same name. There are a lot of ways you're getting stronger simply by exploring and doing side content. You level up, you find better gear, you find more evidence for conversations in the future, and you become passively more powerful with these bonus perks. This is not a game you rush through, or you won't be enjoying it as much. Now, I know I've spent a bit of time convincing you that other skills are worth a look, but that's because many people start their journey committing to combat without considering a second playthrough at all and considering the options they'll be missing out on. It's not to say that combat isn't a strong choice. Every situation can be solved with violence, and combat roles get things indirectly that scale with power. Every new gun or new melee weapon is multiplied by your skills, and combat roles get more perk options that further multiply. Even flaws you can find drastically multiply your output, like this one, Treacherous. 100% extra sneak attack damage is insane. Check out this unassuming hat that gives 30% more magazine size. It can turn a triple barrel shotgun into a quad barrel, at least in spirit, which drastically increases your DPS. Where is that fourth shot coming from? Even things that don't directly help your stats will help you build, like your companion learning how to stun targets, letting you line up the perfect shot or land a grenade. Occasionally you'll come across little events like this. If you're talented or quick enough, you can reap some rewards. In this case, saving the guy will let you take some bonus items. However, if you don't look properly and just throw grenades into the mix like I do, or use explosive rounds, you might kill someone you didn't realize was there. So be careful and look before you explode things. It might also anger your companions and they can and will leave. Actually, thinking of Avowed, it didn't even let you kill wildlife, did it? Now, for some reason, it's much more hidden in the menus than it should be, but you have a radio on your person at all times. Simply click here and you have access to, at least at the start, 2 radio channels from Auntie's Choice and the Protectorate. Later on, there'll be more. That damn Auntie's Choice jingle is still stuck in my head. Listen out though for their retelling of your exploits as you do them, at least from their unique perspective. I regret not knowing that this was an option until much later in the game, as I would have liked to hear the faction's opinions on the choices I made. Now, you might think that meeting a requirement in conversations means it will be a better outcome. Not always. Sometimes it could go explosively wrong. So pick the option you resonate the most with. If you haven't invested in either guns or melee, melee is a powerful choice. Melee weapons have a high base power and don't consume your limited ammo, so don't write them off immediately. Like I said, without any combat investment, melee weapons are actually more powerful than guns. Marisol will most likely be a lot of people's favorite companion, but outside of her personality, she has a nice side effect of letting you see combat information on your targets when N-ray scanning or using tactical time dilation. Take a good look. There's some funny flavor text there as well. I mean, there's funny flavor text everywhere, just look at grenades. That's all to say, take your time to read things, even in the middle of combat. Now, this might be one of the first tips you read in game, but the way armor works is that it blocks an amount of incoming damage. So low damage fast firing weapons or shotguns that fire a lot of low damaging shots will be thoroughly reduced, unless of course that shotgun is using a slug, making them less effective against armor. However, high damage attacks, like from two-handed melee weapons, grenades, or snipers, is actually great against armor. Evasion though completely avoids gun shots, so snipers are less effective against your light armor, but you can't evade grenades or melee weapons. Also note that some attacks can disrupt enemies as well, including stuns from your companions. So wait for dragoons to leap at you and then use your abilities. During your travels, you'll find high security lockboxes. They automatically make their way to your ship, and the only way to unlock them is to have the right amount of decryption keys. These boxes contain some seriously powerful items, and you can't pick and choose what box you want to open. So get through each box so you can see something that suits your build. You need those decryption keys, so if you have the cash, buy them every time you see one in a vendor. You won't regret it. On consoles, this might be more obvious, but on PC, you can press in your middle mouse button to bring up your weapon wheel. In doing so, slow down time. This will give you a second to change to something more appropriate, like a shock grenade against an auto mech, whereas before, it was too much hassle to swap manually between equipped nades as time doesn't slow down as you do it. I only wish I knew about this earlier. The more you use your medical inhaler, the more the toxicity meter rises. If you use it once and you see this little green icon here, that means another use will put you into the crash state, meaning you can't use the inhaler again for a long while. So you do want to avoid that unless of course your build wants to be in the crash state. Look, it's hard to see in battle, but take note. The game will let you know when you reach the point of no return, so don't feel bad about leaving things to do later while you progress the main story. If you want to go back and complete tasks, you know when you need to because the game will notify you. So go at your own pace. So that's everything. Hopefully it's given you a bit of an idea of what to avoid. I appreciate you sticking around for this long, and if the video was helpful, be sure to do the typical YouTube stuff. Thanks for watching, and until next time, ciao friends.